Do you know that there has been a war declared on Russian middle class? A real war? There has been a real war plan. Different actions were executed over the past decade, and the result of this war, well, the result was effective and outstanding. Russian middle class is nearly gone today, right now, in 2023. And did you know that? Well, most likely you did not. Heck, not too many Russians know that. And this information, this war information, it's not like it's secret in any way. The information is out there in the public, available to anyone who is willing to learn, to read, to research. But in order to start understanding that has been a war in the middle class, you've got to stop drinking vodka and sober up. At least a little bit. And to many people in Russia, that's really difficult. But you know what? I have been sober all my life. And I will tell you of this secret, not so secret, war on Russian middle class and how this war explains many things happening right now, even why Russia is in Ukraine. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where I give you important news updates that explain what's really happening inside Russia. What you will not find here is propaganda, BS, and lies. What you will find here is common sense, truth, and logic, and emotions, because I am a human being. Inside Russia is where usual Russia explained by the unusual Russian. For first 30 minutes or so, I usually deliver a message of the day. And after, I invite you to join the live stream chat for conversing, commenting, and asking questions. I would love that. Thank you. My friends, do you know how today's topic about this war on Russian middle class was born? Well, it was born yesterday. In yesterday's stream, Putin's war or Russians' war. I was explaining that, and it was a very difficult stream to make. If you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. I think it's a must-see stream, Then later, I started reading the comments after the stream. I always do that, but it's just there are so many comments that usually I can't read them all. Just, a little part of the comments. And one of the comments, or actually a few comments, were something like that. Hey, Konstantin, you're so wrong. You said there was no middle class in Russia, but hey, there are lawyers, doctors, small businessmen, entrepreneurs, all these people who make up middle class in Russia. Therefore, in Russia you have them, therefore there's middle class. And I thought, wow, these people don't know some basic things about Russia. I try to tell them all these advanced concepts on how Russian society is organized, but there's lack of understanding of very basic things. It's like math. You have to know the basics in order to understand the advanced. You don't know the math, you don't know the basics, and you jump into the calculus, and then calculus is like jibra-jabra to you. You don't understand anything. So I figured that would be really important to understand what has happened to Russian middle class and why it's so important for Russia, Russian history, Russian society, things like that. Well, I didn't know that there was a middle class in a society until 1993, when I started my freshman year in Russian university. I was economics student. That year was magic, real magic for me. I started learning so much of market economy, of how societies are organized outside Russia in normal world, magic. So I was studying economics, and I was reading a large college textbook written by two Americans, Brew and McConnell, and it was called Economics. And that's where the concept of middle class was introduced to me. This is where I learned just very basics about the middle class. At every society, middle class is hugely, hugely important. Middle class is the social group between the upper and working classes, in the middle, obviously, including professional and business people and their families. That's very official, very dry explanation of a middle class. Middle class consists of people who depend on their work and do it well. Middle class emerges in societies and that are in socially healthy societies. The larger percentage of middle class, the more healthy the society is. Usually, always, really, not usually, the societies with strong middle class have lower crime rates, they enjoy higher levels of trust and life satisfaction, as well as greater political stability and good governance. Why? Because people work hard to be in the middle class, to enjoy the benefits of the middle class, and they want to maintain law, order, they want to have lower crime rate, they want to have decent government that they control, the middle class controls, and they're ready to fight for it. That's why middle class is very, very important. In the United States, middle class was considered one of the things that actually put the USA apart from the rest of the world, because until the 90s, the USA enjoyed incredibly strong and large middle class. Okay, it started post-World War II. There was a rise in unionism. Unions were rising. There was a passage of the GI Bill, housing program, tons of other progressive actions introduced in the USA, in the economy. All those actions led to doubling of the median family income in only 30 years, from late 40s to late 70s. And it created a middle class that included nearly 60% of Americans. And I'm giving you the figure around the late 70s. I think it's 1979. 60% middle class. That's why America was so stable. That's why the living standard was so high. That's why life was so good. That's why America, extended its culture all over the world. If you know any other country where middle class is 60%, let me know, because I don't. Now, this is just a little, so to speak, economics lesson. Now, let's go back to Russia. In Russia, back in 1993, when I started my school, we didn't have middle class. We were all poor. Gosh, we, our country was born 2 years prior. We all started poor. We all started at the same level. And in 1993, it seemed like we were all in the race, and everyone was competing who gets ahead first, because the opportunities were endless. You could start any business, and there had been no business before, so you had open market for you, and you could grab as much of a market share as you wanted, as you were ready to work hard for it. And so we still did not have middle class for about 10 years because Russian economy was not stable. There were problems, mafia, defaults, the government actions. Russia was fairly not doing too well in the 90s. There was a great period of change, of transformation. But then a miracle happened. We started getting rich, most of us in Russia. You know what? I'm not gonna get into the details right now. How we were riding this wealth wave as a society as Russia. I made the entire stream about that. Go and check it out if you want. The middle class in Russia was born during those years from 2000 to 2008. So the first signs of a middle class, I would say 2001, 2002, and then by 2008 there was actually middle class, a pretty big one. Now there are two economic definitions of middle class that I had in Russia, and they're pretty cool. They're formal and informal. Formal, that's what the scholars have. Informal, my personal experience. So formal, pretty cool. Is definition is this: a whole set of factors should exist by which people belong to the middle class. Among them are above average incomes, obviously, savings and real estate, higher education, and a job that is not related to physical labor. Professionals, white-collar workers, doctors, scientists also refers to the middle class and as well as small businessmen. People who had a large number of these characteristics fell into the core of the middle class in Russia. These are just people with relatively stable financial situation, a good job, and various assets, such as apartment, car, second home, something like that. Russian middle class was born, and it was growing. It was growing very fast. So who were people of the middle class? Fairly simple. Doctors, teachers, professors at universities, engineers, small business owners, executives, just the usual suspects, just like in any other country. People who make middle class in other countries, they made middle class in Russia in 2000s. Now, informal definition, my view of middle class. What kind of a person belonged to middle class? What could they afford and what they did? I remember I was thinking about that in 2007, 2008. I clearly remember in 2008, I bought an apartment and I was doing renovation. A mason came and he did some work. Masonry, well, any kind of physical labor, electricians, plumbers, masons, people who did sheetrock, painters, they were considered very, very poorly paid laborers. Okay, that's the lowest you can go in Russia. Unlike in other countries, in Russia, you don't make much if you are in one of those occupations. So a mason came to me and he did some work, and I remember I was talking to him. He actually demanded quite a high pay, quality was good, and I remember that he could afford a foreign-made car. In Russia, it's a big deal. It was a big deal back then. He could afford a foreign-made car. And I was talking to him about other professions of this kind, electricians, plumbers, all of them, all his friends, who he brought later to do the jobs in my apartment, all of them drove foreign cars. Big deal. Then I started, they belonged to the middle class all of a sudden. They had apartments, they had decent life, they drove foreign-made cars, luxury. And then I took a teacher, it was a friend of mine who was a teacher, and we were talking about salaries. To have a foreign vacation abroad, and another luxury that had not been able to, many Russians had not been able to do that in the previous years. But 2007, 2006, 2008, a teacher, also very poorly paid job in Russia, would have to save up money up to 5 months to have a summer vacation in Turkey or in Greece. 5 months, that's it. Teachers were making enough to go on vacation, and they did, or to buy a car, or to get a mortgage and buy an apartment. They could afford it all of a sudden. They certainly belonged to middle class. You know what? Millions of Russians vacated to Turkey, Greece, Egypt those years. Oh, millions. I think Turkey alone would take 7 million tourists every single year. Every 7 million Russian tourists. Then a doctor, not very well paid position, job in Russia, but they got a little better pays than teachers in school. So I remember I was talking to a doctor, 4 months, a regular doctor in Moscow, had to save up for 4 months to go to Turkey on vacation in the summer. And these are real life examples. I remember talking to those people. And it was good. They were making enough to have a decent life and to be able to save up, to afford saving up for some luxuries such as car or vacation. Well, now 2011 came. Everything in terms of economy was well. We had a very, very short crisis of 2008, but we rebounded very fast. Within 9 months, I would say. So 2011, still, we were riding the wealth wave. And that was a turning point. Again, I talked of 2011 as of the key year for Russia's transformation. I talked about it many times because this is hugely important, okay? Talked in the previous streams. Go and check it out. In a nutshell, Vladimir Putin in 2011, early 2012, declared the war on Russia's middle class. He got very insulted by some actions of people from the middle class, and he felt betrayed. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. Again, in a nutshell. Like I already said about the golden years in the stream about the golden years, people were enjoying something they had never had before. Wealth, buying properties, upgrading their apartments, having material things, cars, daches, traveling abroad extensively. Something the Russians had never even thought of it, having it before, okay? Economy was booming. Everyone was just, everything was up to us. We wanted to work. We were making money. The only people who weren't, who didn't want to work. The middle class was born, it was growing, and it was getting richer. And there was a social contract. Now listen to this because it's hugely important. There was a social contract between the government and between middle class, between people. Something like this. You provide us with all the money we like so much. In other words, you keep the economy strong and booming, and we will mind our business, and you can do whatever you want as long as you keep money flowing. That was the social contract between people and the Russian government. And all of a sudden, that contract was broken. Middle of December 2011, Bolotnaya Square protests. First time in Russia ever. Okay, the protests, real big ones, real, strong ones, tons of people. Bolotnaya is protest number one, then Sakharova Square follows. Up to 200,000 people got there. Oh, no one was prepared for that in the government, Russia's middle class took it to the streets to openly protest against the government, demanding change. And trust me, that's what Vladimir Putin and the government doesn't like. They don't like change. They like to stay in power forever. But there was a clear conflict between the middle class and the government and the Putin because he was trying to become president for the third time. At that point, Vladimir Putin felt betrayed. I know it from, it's common knowledge, and I knew some people in the government who were telling me about this mood in the government. Now, if middle class that had been reaping the fruits of what Putin created and Putin thought that he did create this booming economy, okay, which is not true. If the middle class hit Putin with a knife, stabbed him into the back, then middle class had to die. Well, not so radical, but it had to disappear. People would have to move to different social groups, usually down low. And the die was cast, 2011. I remember speaking to an acquaintance from a government, a lower level of the government, and he was telling me, with being really rude and very arrogant, he was saying something like, the populace got fat and will be cutting that fat, trimming that fat now. I thought it was a bravado first, but then I figured in a few years I remembered those words and I understood that the guy was right. They started trimming people's fat, and by fat meaning money, wealth, well-being, good living standard. That had to go. But why? Why did they take it to the streets? Why did people protest? Because they were riding the wave. Everything was, everything was great. Everything was fantastic in terms of money. Very simple. People got smarter and they started asking questions. Middle class is the most active part of population. Millionaires have their own lives and their own worries and their own bubbles. They don't care about anyone but themselves. Beggars are forced to think only about a piece of bread, daily bread. They survive. They don't protest. And only the middle class, the core of civil society, is ready to ask the important question. And the question is like, where's good education and quality medicine? Where are the good roads? Will the courts judge by the law, not from the orders from above, Where do our taxes go? Why government does not change and the same people stay? And the rest is history. Vladimir Putin realized middle class was dangerous. Too independent, too active, too educated, too well-traveled. Middle class could compare Russia to other countries. Middle class was becoming a force of its own. It was giving birth to opposition. Opposition does not come from the elites. Opposition does not come from the very bottom. It comes from the middle class. And Putin has been the president since 2011. Since early 2012, there have been many economic initiatives that made it much more difficult for people to live, for businessmen to run their businesses. Government regulations increased, taxes increased greatly for all people. More restrictions have been placed on small businesses. You name it. There are so many initiatives that have made our lives more difficult and have lowered our living standard, well-being have been made. And it all led to today, when middle class is just a fraction of what it used to be in 2011 or 2010. Before, the middle class were doctors and lawyers and businessmen, those who were independent, those who did not depend on the government, those who worked hard and made their own money. But they have been replaced, and that remaining middle class, the small one, it still exists, but it's a small one, and it consists of people who are paid by the government. They will not protest. They will not go to the streets. They will not even go travel abroad for vacations, because most of them are not allowed, because they work for the government. They will work for KGB, Attorney General's office, police, and agencies like that. They're not allowed to leave Russia. They're not allowed to travel. Okay. This is basically why and how Russia's middle class died. And the war was declared by one man, the supreme leader, supreme ruler, Vladimir Putin, for the reasons I just described you. I'll give you some examples. Now, a school teacher, if you compare the prices of, let's say, 2007 to now, the school teacher almost makes the same, and the prices for everything, starting from the gasoline and for everything, food, real estate, cars, have tripled. Okay, so the teachers have become 3 times less, well, 3 times poorer, I would say. And if it took them 5 months to save up and travel, say, to Turkey for a couple of weeks, now they can't afford it. They are trying to make ends meet, especially 2012 has been pretty tough year. Oh, I'm sorry, 2022. People who work with hands, masons, plumbers, electricians, they're having really hard time because incomes of regular Russian people, they're been dropping and the market is shrinking. And these people, they also don't drive foreign cars anymore. You know, they're trying to make ends meet. Same goes for pretty much everything else. The business owners, well, it's easy. The business number of small businesses have declined by a huge deal if we compare today with 2011. And a lot of businessmen, they're independent. They're decision makers, okay? They employ other people. They're really hard to BS. They're really hard to lie to. Most of them do not agree what's happening in Ukraine. And let me tell you, they ask questions. And actually, tons of them closed their businesses and they fled. They left Russia. They still have businesses, but in other countries now. They pay taxes in other countries. They create value in other countries. They create products and sell them in other countries. So 2023 will be even harsher, more destructive years for Russian middle class. I think the rest of the middle class will be just destroyed. And we're going to be brought back to 1993, when there was no middle class, when I was starting my freshman year in Russian university, and we were all at the same position. We were all poor. People say, no, Russians don't protest. And that's true. Usually middle class protests. Like I said, upper class, millionaires, people who are rich, they live in their own bubbles, their own world, and they don't really care about anything. Lower class, little education, lots of vodka, hard work, no energy after a person comes back from work, no energy left for anything. TV set, propaganda, brainwashing, they don't protest. It's the middle class, educated, smart, hardworking, asking questions. But where are they? Well, if you want to see them, come to Tashkent. I'll introduce you. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to go to Breakfast Club. There will be many, well, actually all my friends in the Tashkent Breakfast Club, they're middle class. Used to be middle class in Russia. You come on Sunday, we get together, the groups about 50, 60 people. Used to be middle class in Russia. Now they live in Tashkent. You go to, not necessarily Tashkent, you go to Almaty, Astana, Bishkek, you go to Yerevan, you go to Tbilisi, you will find Russia's middle class there. Fantastic people, by the way. And they are still generating lots of taxes, but those taxes don't go to Russia anymore. They go to different countries. Russian class has been effectively destroyed. And it's actually a very sad story. Folks, please do not make your own mistakes. Learn from ours. Thank you so much. This has been my message for today. As usual, turning on comments. Please stay and participate in the conversations. Before I do that, I'd like to ask you a couple things. First, please help me spread my message by making reposts on social media accounts. And second, please join my Telegram channel called Inside Konstantin's Russia, so I keep you updated, making announcements on the upcoming streams and so forth. So thank you so very much. I would love to answer your questions now. By the way, if you want, let me know what you think of today's message, because it's really interesting. I have another stream coming about Russian society. The idea of the stream was also born yesterday, during yesterday's stream, Putin's War or People's War. And the stream will be called Why Russia Never Looks at Democracy. Okay. That was also, backward. Nothing is... nothing is like in the West, Lorna, Mommy, howdy, Mods, Blackad, Bob S, Harry, Amir, howdy friends, thank you for coming. And the usual suspects, Dirk is number 1 today, Airborne Snail, Samsa, Brother Randall, thank you, Angry Panda, Ferrari Guy, thank you for coming. Tom W, Jeffrey S, Fact Checker. Let me know what you think. As usual, put it in caps. Put Inside Russia after @ sign, so I see it highlighted. We have England, Germany, Scotland, the USA, Canada, Australia, as usual. Kieran Whitfield, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Thank you. So now reading the comments that are highlighted. Pacific Beach, California, Charlie B, howdy, Janice Burgess, Roger Williams, howdy, Sam K, hello Konstantin, glad you're feeling better today. Feeling a little better, nasal spray helps. Bruning Imagery, aka Dieter, great stream, thank you so much. Thank you. White Linings 777 has gifted a sponsorship to one person. Thank you so much. The Highwayman, howdy. UH is now the sponsor. Palaska, Virginia in the house. Terry Carter, howdy. Friends, I would like to ask you one thing. We had the live stream chat a little bit out of control, or perhaps a lot out of control, and Lorna was making great efforts to keep it in order, and other mods. I am here to speak of Russia. I am here to explain how I see Russia, how I see events that are happening in Russia. I am here to explain my stand on the war with Ukraine and what's happening with Ukraine. And what I really don't really like and appreciate happening here is when people start fighting over political views in America. Okay, please do not ever do that. We have talked to the mods. They're gonna be very strict about that. I have asked them to be like that. Whether you're liberal, conservative, Democrat, or Republican, you know what? That's not the fight. That's not the issue for this stream. Just keep your political views to yourself. I am myself a conservative. I am a Republican, but you know what? I am neither at the left or at the right. I am kind of a Republican that agrees with a lot of things with Democrats, and we stay in the middle, okay? And just take it as that, and please do not discuss don't have political fights about American politics. That's not what my channel is about. Thank you. White Lightning 777, how many middle-class Russians were living between 2011 and 2022? If they were traveling, they could have gotten better job offers in the West. No, not too many. They were not leaving Russia. They were staying in Russia, working in Russia. It's just life was becoming less and less prosperous for them, more and more difficult. But I think it's easy to say that virtually zero left until 2022. Because why would we? I didn't leave Russia. Why would I leave? This is my country. I don't like many things. That's what's happening. But hey, I live here. My kids go to school here. In Russia, we call it the sausage immigration. When you immigrate, not because you disagree with political views or something, not because of the politics, but because you're simply looking for a better economic life. I am not a sausage immigrant, okay? And most people who are here in Uzbekistan, they're not sausage immigrants. If Russian government was democratic, we all would have stayed in Russia. Just Terry has given sponsorship to 5 people. Thank you so much, friend. Really great to have you on the channel. Caesars, thank you. Inside Russia, nice spring to everybody. Indeed, thank you so much. Zemlyanka, something that a person builds for himself when he wants to live in the summer nature. No. Zemlyanka is the last resort of living. It's like living under a tree, basically. What you do, you dig a hole, you cover it up so it doesn't leak, and it's like living in a dug up basement. If you don't have anything, you go to a forest and live in Zemlyanka, okay? Not a pretty place to live at. If you want to live in the summer in nature, you set up a tent or a yurt or something like that, but not Zemlyanka. Zemlyanka is associated with either underground movement in World War II, when people were resisting and hiding in the woods, they built the Zemlyankas for themselves. Or with extremely poor people, this is the lowest you can fall, if you know what I mean. KG1, will the middle class now return with help of the Chinese money? No, because we're not sausage immigrants. We didn't leave because things are tough economically. We left for different reasons. And none of people who I saw, or I've met, I've spoken to here in Tashkent, they want to go back because of the Chinese money. And what Chinese money? You think that China will give Russia money, bail Russia out? Yeah, right. Inside Russia, Wanda, thank you so much. Even the peasant revolt led by a knight, peasants need a leader to revolt and move. Best would be educated. Look at the leaders of the 1917. The leaders were the educated, if poor. It's not a question, I agree with you. Thanks for the support. And yes, the peasants, anyone, they really need leadership. There is no leadership right now in Russia, by the way. Opposition does not have leadership whatsoever. William Handy Jr., 100 pages left, Atlas Shrugged. Thanks for recommendation. All right. Great book, isn't it? How did the author know her story would come true 66 years later? That's not the only true. What is wrong with my tongue today? This is not the only story that came true some years later. The most sinister story that came true is 1984, of course. Animal Farm. Fahrenheit 460. Much more sinister stories, you know. But Atlas Shrugged is coming true as well. After you're done reading, research a little bit about the author, Ayn Rand. She came from Odessa, Ukraine. Been to Odessa many times. I lived there. One of the cities I love so much. Unfortunately, it's probably closed for me for the rest of my life. But anyway, many famous people came from Odessa, believe it or not. Ancestors of Sylvester Stallone from Odessa. Oh, so many. Odessa is a hub for immigrants. Was a hub for immigrants, you know, back in the days. Tom W., howdy. Roger Williams, howdy. Theodore, good evening from Scotland. Natasha from the Emerald Land, howdy. Marie Muller, so enlightening. Thank you, I tried. Jim Gobetz, howdy. Recent subscriber, much love from all from Grand Cayman. Woohoo, place I wanna be. Sarah A, thank you so much. Missan too. In Sweden, the middle class was 73% of the inhibitors of the population in the good old days. That's even bigger than the USA. 73%. That's insane. Wow. You know, when we were studying the economics, both in Russia and in the USA in the 90s, there was a special chapter, and it was the Scandinavian way. And Sweden was the prime example, how the capitalism was like fused with a little bit of socialism in the Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland. So I remember one of the professors was telling us the Swedish way. Lorna says no political attacks on others today. And I double on that. Please don't do that. That's not going to be pretty. Pamela J. was interesting because I don't know these things before. I didn't know. Well, I'm glad you learned something interesting today. Brother Randall, thank you. Wanda, reading another message from you, thank you. Chirper, thank you. William Martin, thank you so much. Mr. D, Constantine, good stream. You keep saying vacate. To vacation means go relax. Yes, I am sorry. Not to vacate, but to vacation. I think you already said that once. But, you know, some things takes a few repetitions to get stuck in the head. So it's to vacation. Two minutes to midnight. Thank you. Faith Russard. Thank you. Pepe Lepönen. Lipenen. There you go. Pepe Lipenen. Good evening from Finland. What do you think about the case Finland as soon as a member of NATO? Well, good for you guys. What do I think? Good for you. Should have done that a long time ago. Miska Kaliskin from Chicago. Howdy, howdy. You know, you're saying happy spring. Here in Russia, in Uzbekistan, and the post-USSR, we've been enjoying spring for 3 weeks now because our spring starts March 1st. Our seasons start March 1st, June 1st, September 1st, and December 1st. Rudy Kaisley, as I have always thought, you must have experienced the benefits of freedom and peace in the past in order to desire more of it in the future. Well, I definitely have. I have experienced it, yes, in my life. First, I experienced in the United States, and I experienced in Russia. And I was pretty happy about how Russia was developing. Well, I know now much more than I knew back then. I could see signs from now. I could see signs of troubles back then if I think of them now. But I couldn't see them when I was living back then, if you know what I mean. But yes. Sam K, my door isn't a door at the moment, it's a jar. Ajar sounds familiar. Used to be a forum for divorced people back in the days. Clash 1100. I think right before the war, Russia's middle class was mostly made of IT guys and loyal officials, Siloviki. Now the IT guys are gone, and people in the Kremlin finally got their loyal middle class. You're right. You're right and right. IT guys, they enjoyed, but the thing is, they're young, they're not. They weren't loyal, that's true, and then they're gone. Paula W, hello from Oregon, USA. Sending my love from Uzbekistan to you, thank you. Lilith Eden, Belgium. SF Joe. Scott Nesbitt. The usual suspects. Wow, thanks for coming. Interestingly enough, not too many questions. I checked myself into a emoji rehab. Yes, me laughing out loud too with you, Dave. Pamela J's, Sam K enjoys puns. I think it's a pun or play on words. Ajar. Another word for open. Ajar. Huh. Ajar.com used to be a big forum for divorced people or going through divorce. It was a sad place back in 2005, 2006. Jason Carney, thank you so much for coming back and supporting. Thank you from me and Natasha. I appreciate it very much. Juraj Kwak, hello, what percentage of middle class is not outside of Russia? What do you think? Look, it's really hard to say now because it's been so how do I say that? So it's changing real fast. People are still coming out of Russia. We get new faces here in Tashkent every time, every single day, basically every week. I don't know. It's really hard to answer the question. Jason, thank you so much for 5 sponsorships. Gift of 5 sponsorships to 5 people from me and from 5 people. Thank you. Uh, you know, I'm not sure how to say your name right, but I think it's Yuraj. I have an idea. That thing you wanted us to screen, we can do it on Sunday instead of one of the lectures. I can get people from all over Tashkent. We can do that. Angie Madcat taking a break from packing to listen. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you. Thank you so much. Damien Todd, do you know this Russian Baklukov guy from Russia? I know this guy. I know him personally. I met him. He invited me on one of his streams right before February 24th. But I have not spoken. I have not talked to him. I have not communicated with him since the war started on February 24th of 2022. A lot of things changed after the war. We had a pretty tight-knit community of Russian English speaking YouTube vloggers, and we conversed a lot, and that is gone now. How do you see it end for Putin's Russia? Christian, it's a very tough question. I don't know. There are so many different possibilities and different paths that the country can take. Depends on many things. I don't know. I can tell you of different paths how I see them, but I've said it in the streams before many times. But I don't know which one is going to happen. That's interesting. Jay Jr., it's like deja vu. Story of Yugoslavia, fastest developed country in the 50s, 60s era, with booming middle class. Years later, people start asking questions, and we all know how it ended. Very sad. I remember how Yugoslavia ended. Very sad, What the fudge, Why these things end like this, Janice Burgess, okay, it's not to me. KG1, how far do you see Russia and China going in their relationship? You are probably asking because the Chinese president came over to Russia a couple hours ago. By the way, there was a huge traffic jam next to my house in Moscow, my apartment. He's huge. He has huge following. I saw Chinese president's cortege a couple times. About 50 cars all over. It's like a flood of cars all around the Chinese president. It's incredible. I think the same cortege as Putin has. You can see how democratic the country. The more democratic, the less cars surround its president, and the less democratic, the more cars surround. So the Chinese guys just incredible. The worst one was only a Saudi Arabian old king. Okay, that was. They blocked all the roads next to my apartment for 2 hours. People didn't move because there were cars going and going and going. I think 3 or 4 planes of cars came from Saudi Arabia, and then they were all surrounded, accompanying the Saudi Arabian king. So anyway, going back to China. No breakthroughs will happen. China is going to use this situation to its own advantage, and it's gonna have Russia as a trade card. It's going to make a deal with the United States, and it just use this card, the Trump card or whatever you call it. It'll use Russia, and it'll make a deal with the USA. Russia, on the contrary, well, not on the contrary, in its own way, will also try to use China and Chinese visit and relationship as one of the cards to make a deal with America. I think they'll be making efforts to talk to Americans these days. White Lightning 777, who has actually authority in Russia to stop war and order full retreat? Only Putin. Is there impeachment in Russia? Putin is the supreme leader. Who can impeach Darth Vader? Anyone? That's the same thing. Only Putin. There's one person who makes the decision. Other people probably can influence his decision. They can try to convince him, present information in a certain way, but the decision will be made by one person. Brian Woods, some consider the middle class as those who have the means to stay or rise to higher socioeconomic class. Those who are poverty-stricken rarely have the ability to do so. Number one of two, thank you for number one. And obviously middle class wouldn't exist if the system is relatively static, caste system or pure communistic countries. In market economies, the middle class relies heavily on education. Well, a little disagreed with you on number one, agree completely on number two. There are, in the United States, we call it the vertical lift, social lift. So in the United States, the vertical social lift was great. You could be born poor and you could climb on top. That's called American dream, okay? In Russia, there was not such a thing. Oyvind Hansen, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. There's no message, but the message is pretty strong. Caesars, will the people who don't have money to immigrate hide from mobilization somewhere in the woods inside Russia? No, they don't. Hence the Zemlyanka. I've never heard of anything like that. If you want to hide in the woods, you take a tent. Why would you dig up Zemlyanka? I think Zemlyanka sounds sexy somehow to you, but it's not, trust me. It's the worst kind of shelter you can have in Russia. So if you go and hide in the woods, take a tent. Or build yourself some little house or hut from like trees. If you stay in one place, why don't you just do that? But don't dig up Zemlyanka. Great southern land. The middle class have the means to leave. The poor don't. Yes and no. This is how I think no. If you want to do something, you can do it. At any position, at any situation. You simply knock on the door. The Bible says if you knocked on many doors, one of them will open. A good example, Alex, from Russia, My English World, who traveled to the United States and now is residing in Texas. I mean, those guy was so poor he couldn't afford tickets to get out of Russia. But you know what? He was looking for ways, and he found ways. God found him. God somehow, provided help to this guy. And he came over to the United States and he got everything. But he was poor, okay? Miracles like that happen in any country, and especially they happen in the United States because that's what the country is all about. No matter where you're born, you still have a chance. But they happen even in Russia. So the poor, if they want to leave, they will find a way or two. There was a guy here in Tashkent, he slept in a tent, okay, and he he hitchhiked his way to the border. He crossed the border by foot. He walked here to Tashkent, and he lived in a tent outside of the city. After a while, he got himself a job. He's a chef, and now he rented an apartment, and he lives a decent life. But that's one of the ways. And the middle class, yeah, they have left. Mohammed, thank you so much. Middle class is defined by what you own, property, foreign cars can do, travel overseas, especially European Union, not just Turkey, Egypt. Bolotnaya protesters against Putin's return were the middle class. Well, that's exactly what I said. They were the middle class. For us, for Russians, it was a big deal to go to Turkey and Egypt. But the thing is, price-wise, it was not so much different from the European Union countries. Pretty much same. Of course, if you wanted to go to south of France, that's one thing. But to fly to Prague, to Barcelona, Spain was extremely popular. To Italy, Sicily or Sardinia was not a big deal. It was same money as Turkey or Egypt. I think Greece was more expensive, actually. And you can define middle class by different ways. In economics, there are different definitions. I'm looking if I have not missed any. There you go, SF Joe. So ego hurt, destroy my class, join China, new MC, middle class, they'd be richer than the poor in China. What a future. It's not a question, it's the answer. Agreed. I think I didn't miss anyone. Rachel, middle class is a mentality usually defined by education, but not always. By education and or hard work, I would add. Thank you, Ola. Help me out. Would be easier to hide than in a tent. I don't disagree with that. You go to the woods, no one's gonna be looking for you in the woods. I mean, give me a break. Have you even heard of any people hiding from anyone and people going and search for them in the woods? I have not. Robert Cohen, Constantine, you're fully entitled to your point of view, but you're not exactly objective about the situation. The USA is not the USA you knew 10, 20 years ago. Robert, why people keep telling it to me in the comments? I give you the information from 40s to the late 70s. And I said, you know what, I don't know what situation is right now. Things have changed. I did not speak of today in the United States for one simple reason. I don't know, okay? I made sure I said it. How did you miss it? Perhaps I need to speak like differently in some way, but I tried to make myself so clear about that. Yes, I know how it was 20 years ago. I do not know how it is now, okay? So this is my point. Now I need to go and see it with my own eyes. Then I will know. Then I will be able to speak about that. Jason Carney, thank you so much for another support. I appreciate it very much. Chirper, have you ever considered doing a stream with a Ukrainian YouTuber? Yes, I have. I will definitely do that. I have 3 people in mind. Actually, 4. One of them is David Porter, our fellow community member who lives in Chernovtsi with his wife and daughter. Chernovtsi is the very west of Ukraine. That's an interesting question. Ohms, what is the status of the people of Nizhny Novgorod? I guess their status is regular people of Russia, the citizens of Russian Federation. That's it. Angie Metcad, wonder what Z got for coming to Russia. Sure, he did do it out of the kindness of his heart. I will do a video explaining my point of view. I think that basically he snubbed Putin for 6 months. He didn't even speak to him. And now all of a sudden he is over in Russia. These visits, they are planned for months ahead. But this one, just a couple of weeks, and Z is here. Something's going on, my friends. Good point. Joao Morenos makes middle class depend on government money isn't middle class. It is a slave class, dependent and obedient. Well, Russia still has middle class. There are still businessmen. There are small businesses. Not too many. But there are people who make decent money. Not too many. But I don't even dare to say what percentage, but there are some people like that. So tiny, tiny portion of what it used to be. Check the playlist. 99, Putin flew Sayanogorsk. Gladenska ski resort. He had a bride. Ovi Deripaska. Tatiana Borisovna Dichenko. Stalevich Voloshin. Yumashev. Blessed him to work as the manager and the president. You're forgetting... what's this guy's name? Pugachev, Sergei Pugachev. He was one of the key people appointing Putin. You're also forgetting the bank owners, Petr Avin, Friedman, Mikhail Friedman, and top Russian oligarchs, including Boris Berezovsky. So you know your Russian stuff, but research, do a little more of research. And it was not Sayanogorsk ski resort. It was, I believe it was Biarritz. Putin was taking a vacationing in, I think it was Biarritz, the south of France, with his wife and 2 daughters, young daughters. And I think Berezovsky flew to Biarritz and spoke to him. And Putin agreed to become the president. It was July of 1999. And that's when things started happening. Wanda, watch out for going to the woods to hide. Baba Yaga is hungry. Agreed. Little Hot may have chicken legs. Constantine, glad to see you well. Thank you, Wanda. After these comments that you made, I wonder if you're Russian. Interesting. Because who else would know Baba Yaga? And a hot with the chicken legs. You really puzzled me today, you know that? Okay, so I have not seen any warnings from the almighty powerful Nightbot, but It's time to wrap up. Ann Larson, does he have an economical interest in rebuilding Ukraine? Why, then he would be speaking definitely not to Putin about that. Natasha from Emerald Land, Dennis 15, when we moved from Nizhny to USA. Oh, okay, that's you from Nizhny Novgorod. John Buck, can you still exchange dollar, euro to rubles in Russia? Oh, they will easily exchange dollars and rubles. Dollars and euros in Russia easily. It's the vice versa that's really difficult. Dirk Misler, today they showed Putin driving a Toyota. My God. This is a mad circus, you know that? The land of curved mirrors. Extra 5 rubles for every retweet is common. American heritage since 1638, newest immigrants 1838 from Scotland. Well, okay. Got it. I wouldn't call you fresh off the boat then. Love fairy tales. Okay, thank you, Wanda. You cleared my mind of all questions, Thank you. My friends, thank you so much. Kiev Ballet are in my town in Oz in May. Fantastic. I'd love to visit. Thank you, Lynn. Jason Carney, thank you again. Thank you, Jason. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Let's wrap it up. Tomorrow, the stream is called Why Russia Never Looks at the Democracy. Meaning every time it has a chance, it blows. I'm not gonna give you right now. Please come back tomorrow and watch my stream. It'll be interesting. That's one of the streams I, work with my wife together. She kind of gives me her points and I incorporate. So it's gonna be interesting. My friends, thank you so much again. Invite everyone to join for a prayer. Thank you. Dear God, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for food that you put on our tables. Thank you for the roofs that you've given us. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful. Please help our children keep them safe and healthy. Give us wisdom to raise them in a way that they become right people, good people, and fix this world after we break it, unfortunately. Dear God, please help stop the bloodshed in Ukraine. Please reach out and touch the minds, hearts, souls of people who can make that decision. Have them wake up from the lethargic sleep so they make the decision to stop the bloodshed in Ukraine. Please help every single Ukrainian who has been affected, answer their prayers, and make their wishes come true, please. Send your angels to every single person in Ukraine so the angels keep people away from harm's way. Please help my country. Send Your strongest angels with sharpest swords led by Saint Michael to get rid of the demons, all demons who have hijacked my country. Send them where they belong, to hell. Have angels run my country. Have angels make it right, make it good, make it respected, make it loved. Please help everyone who is traveling, send safe travels. Help everyone who is seeking for asylum, especially families with children. Send their help their way and send good people their way. God bless those who help in Ukraine right now. Please help the hungry, the homeless, the jobless, the sick, the ones who are struggling with their faith, who are depressed with low self-esteem, the ones who are thinking that the life is over. Please send help, send your love, and shine your light upon those people, so things will get better for them, and everyone will have much needed break. Please keep skies above us peaceful to all of us. Please help all the Ukrainians who are suffering from lack of electricity, water, heat. Send help their way, please. I'm asking for all pregnant women who are deciding whether to keep their babies or not. Please reach out and talk to them. Whisper something right to their ears so they make right choices. Thank you so much for putting us all together into this community, allowing us to have it, allowing us to pray. Thank you so much for everyone who's praying or just watching us pray. Please have everyone's prayer heard and answered and everyone's wish come true. Thank you so much. There are some people I would like to ask you for. They need your help, they need your love, and they need your light. They are Ann Larson, her family and her daughter, Florentina, Mac's family, Sherry Morin from New Hampshire, CKOC, Brian Wilkes, Todd. Please have the soul of Todd Richards rest in peace, and send his family strength to go through hard times. Liz Dumbrell, Ripted, Wayne, Shirley, Debbie, Jen Allen, Finola, Lars Henrik's mom, a highwayman, Amanda Raidnor, and her roommate, Essie from the Scottish Isles, Outlander and family, Choriz and family, David Porter and family, wife, daughter, and all people in Chernovtsi, Ukraine. Enjoy every minute. Please send strength. Lars, Susan Marshall, Beulah, Boss Simon, Lazarus, Alvin's sister, Teresa D., Marsha Tucker, Garcia Castellanos, Terry Carter, Joe McMahon, Deanna F., Meta Spencer, please send speedy recovery, Bree's friend, Caroline, Joel, Terry, Life, Karin Vasseur, Albina Fell, Michael Yukon, Pamela J., Lindsay, Daniel 9, Yelena, Natasha, Larry, Jake, Michael, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Bonnie, Galina, Igor, Karen from Maine, Janine, Michael Milkovitz, Marlene, Paul Bins, Richard, Mallory M., Dirk Misler, James Rhodes, Terry, Hannah and her children, Richard Burris, Angelica Life, and Scan family's grandson, Grace, Barb, Randolph, Nelly, Arkady, and Yuri from Mykolaiv, Ukraine, Harry's family, Merlinda's niece, Ian, James, Doug, Priscilla, Michelin, King Nero, Gaby Hyman, Donald, Deborah, Lisa's son, Jade, Kaltenberg, Allison Dave Moyers, Maureen M. and her sister Mr. Hansen, Heidi, Bob, Umel, Jennifer, Rob, Tony, Kayleen, Matt, Ashley and family, Mr. Dean Spooner, his church, Our Savior Lutheran Church, Lisa Cumrian, Jacob, Adam Oliver, Amy, Treasure, Kyle's wife, Maggie, Carmen's sister, Vladislav and his father Sergey, Susie Myler, Gina, Wayfarer, AMS paramedic Liz, Lori Miles' husband, Sherry, Layla, Philip's mother, Thomas Fall and his mom. And there are some special children I would like you to ask for. They are Cadence, Maverick, Sebastian Coulter, Theo, Madi, Ansley, and 2-year-old niece of Karin Vasseur. Please help. Send them recovery, send them good health, send them miracles. Touch them with your love. Shine your light upon them. And please give strength to their families. I also would like to ask for children of Ukraine who have been misplaced, stolen, affected by this whole tragedy. Please help them. Help everyone who is in need. Help their families. Help them in a way you know how to help. Answer their prayers. Surround them with love. Shine their light. Show them the way. Also asking for all children of Russia who have been affected by this terrible tragedy. Thank you, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. My friends, thank you so much for coming, giving me a chance. I will see you all tomorrow. I would like to say that you're absolutely awesome and you rock. Again, tomorrow will be a talk about how Russia never looks towards direction of democracy, and it is sad. You will learn about that tomorrow. And today, before I go, I would like everyone to say out loud, Carthago delende est.